Hi guys, Luton here, and with Battlefield Hardline very nearly here, and we're playing the beta right now, one of the biggest things that people are always going to talk about in any Battlefield game is of course the destruction. But I hear a lot of people all the time saying that there is not enough destruction in Battlefield Hardline. But is that true? Well, I have tried to collect some examples of the amount of destruction between these four Battlefield titles: Hardline, Battlefield 4, Battlefield 3, Bad Company 2. Now in Hardline, we obviously only have the beta right now, but I still think it gives enough of an impression to be able to judge overall kind of how the destruction level feels. But bear in mind, we are only in beta with that title. Now with the others, I think everybody has a pretty good idea overall again, so I have selected some highlights, but because this is a long video, I've broken it down into 4 sections, and if you want to click on any specific one from here in the menu, it will take you to that specific section. It's also time stamped in the notes below, so sit back and enjoy as I talk you through the different levels of destruction through the Battlefield series. So what we saw right there was obviously the Levolution event in Battlefield Hardline's downtown map. Now, as with the Levolution in Battlefield 4, it's fairly scripted, but quite on a grand scale, so plenty to see right there. I actually found it hard to find any sort of very significant destruction though, other than that in this map. And I found this section right here, it's basically a work of art, and you can shoot through the various pieces. However, it's in a fairly unused area of the map, so it's not particularly, something you would find yourself having to encounter, but it is there nonetheless. Moving on, now here I was looking at basically just some of the concrete blocks and slabs around the area, seeing how the machine gun will deal with those. And again, you can see you fire and distort against them, but no significant level of destruction. It's more kind of just micro destruction really. Some concrete blocks right here, and you'll see later on as I go into the other videos why it's important that I was choosing some specific items that you know. Is it destructible? It could be destructible. I mean, imagine if some guy's camping behind it, you want to RPG it. No, not destructible whatsoever. It just stays completely intact. And I have tried to pick objects that would have actual relevance in the game. Things that you would actually have to use, not just random things around the map. Okay, here we are. Here's a wall with some built rooms behind it that people can hide in. Again, totally relevant to the game. You may need to destroy it in game. No, it takes 0 damage whatsoever there as well. Okay, we're coming across this bridge, and I thought, people could hide behind this and shoot over. This seems like something you might want to RPG or, throw a grenade at or whatever. It's something that you might want to take a guy out if he's hiding behind there. So I was like, okay, here we go. I'll put some more C4 down on this, and let's see how destructible it is. And that is actually a reasonable level of destruction. That's the kind of level of destruction that you might expect. And as you can see, firing through here, we break off a lot of the concrete. However, notice how acute, see, breaking in, wearing in there, not too bad. It has a reasonable level of depth to it. But notice along the top section how acute the breaks are. They're not very sort of micro, they're not very, small amounts. They're quite acute in the way that they break off. Now again, here, this is an area of the map that I knew to be destructive. But again, it's kind of limited. This is sort of, it's just like one section. There's other areas which are similar to this, which don't have this. Now here, this is at the top of one of the skyscrapers. This is the kind of, imagine if you like, the sort of die-hard construction level of the skyscraper. And you can see that they've got these plasterboard or drywall sections, and you can see that they have destruction on both sides. So in the room that I'm in and its opposing side. Right here we've got some boxes in a big pile, just cardboard boxes with whatever in. Boxes C4 on there. Charge, no destruction whatsoever. Again, you can imagine people maybe hiding around there in-game, using it to peek and shoot and peek and shoot. You could fire an RPG at that. Obviously you don't really get RPGs in Battlefield Hardline other than the actual pickups from the cars, but you could throw a breach charge at it, you could throw a grenade at it, and it will just take that 100%. Again, you can see those shooting through the drywall here and the sort of plasterboard. Here is a more sort of concrete wall. Again, it takes it. We've got some pallets there. and shooting through these walls, and I was just trying to sort of move around here and imagine how it may be if you're in here in a firefight. And you can see that again these plasterboard walls are destructible, but all the cardboard, you know, sort of other things, the subsidiary things around it are not. Now right here, metal shack. Important to remember this little metal shack, okay guys? Grenade at the metal shack, just some, you know, galvanized sheets. No, nothing whatsoever, just takes it. The little, here we are, you can see. Again, notice how acute those breaks are. They're not very micro destruction, they're quite sharp and specific. Moving in here, okay, I was looking at sort of bullet penetration on the walls. Again, these walls are very similar in construction to the plasterboard walls. In fact, they probably must be identical in construction to the plasterboard walls, even if they're made of wood as well, to the ones in the skyscraper, or as you'll see also in the bank. But no, completely non-destructible. And again, these buildings, if you're moving through them, are definitely buildings that you may have people you need to fire through into. Rather than enter a room, the whole point of Battlefield is that you can fire through those rooms into the other players. It's very specific and very relevant to the style of the game. Coming out through the fencing right here, and of course the fence does blow apart. Some quite nice kind of physics there with the planks falling down and stuff, so that works okay for me. Okay, here we have a sort of concrete and brick wall. Trying to see if it will chip away, but notice that it's not really actually chipping away, it's a graphical effect. Notice that's a graphical effect, not actually physical destruction. Okay, shooting here onto the chairs, and I'm seeing sort of how many rounds it takes and how many pieces they can break into. So that first one, see, they instantly almost destroy for maybe 1 or 2 rounds. You don't really break the chair down, and again that's going to be very important if you look at Battlefield 3 in a little bit. Okay, a whole stack of pallets. Again, there may be someone hiding behind. You can chew straight through that, but notice how, again, it destroys and instantly disappears into like a million pieces rather than being sort of gradually broken down. And the windows here, again, I always feel like in Battlefield, you know, with the destruction, it shouldn't be obvious what you can destroy. You shouldn't think to yourself, oh, I'm pretty sure that will destroy. You should, and again, we come to the windows right here, look. I can pretty much decide, but then look, you can destroy straight through that, but the small wooden support is completely indestructible. So really what they've made there is kind of like subsidiary graphical elements, and that's how I feel a lot with Hardline. There's a lot of subsidiary elements, not actual specific destruction. It's more just like little pieces blotted around. Again, look at the rocket launcher right there, just no impact on, again, a very light wooden wall. Again, this was a section of the house where when I was in a live game, I actually felt like I wanted to be able to shoot through those walls. Again, in Battlefield 3 they had that. You'll see later on that they had that. Someone's, you know, peeking that door, you don't want to wait for them to come around the corner, you want to just shoot straight through the wall, and you can't do that. So looking around in the house, I was just trying to find things to shoot. The plant pot here, chip a bit off, but it's not really destructible overall. Table here, again, you can see some very mild fragmentation on the edge, but not really. The door takes 2, 3 rounds and then just instantly destroys into like a million pieces. So just looking around again, I'm always just trying to find, in the ground, what could I find that we want to destroy? Now again, on these buildings as well, again, like same thin wooden walls, that kind of drywall effect. And I was thinking, okay, 3 or 4 C4 charges right here. This is surely going to have an effect on this building. You notice it has absolutely no effect other than breaking the windows, and notice how even many of the objects inside where the C4 is placed right over, completely intact. Okay, placing more charges right here around the windows, and again I might want to breach this room, I want to blow my way through, and maybe there's some guys inside I want to kill. No effect whatsoever from 3. Remember, these are breach charges for breaching walls. No effect whatsoever on that very thin drywall, that thin wooden wall. Okay, here we are on bank job, and again looking at the statues here, 1 shot, 2 shot to the head there, breaks it up a little bit. On the paws here, there is some destruction levels, but again notice its acuteness compared to what you'll see in a little while. Just testing these other bits, seeing how it kind of fragments around the edges. Again, notice that those are again graphical errors rather than sort of actual physical pieces breaking. This is though on these top sections. So okay, reasonable amount of destruction on that. Again, here I was imagining, you know, you're peeking left and right, some guys dodging in and out around the pillars right here. How far can you actually chew through this stuff? and it's not very far. You can kind of clip the edges, but it's not going to be enough to really sort of chew through and to maybe shoot someone on that corner edge. Maybe a very mild amount, but not really enough to have any significant destruction level. Okay, plant pots, again, predictably destructible. It's the kind of thing you look at and think that's gonna... But remember, in Call of Duty 4, these kind of objects were destructible. So it's not really something that you would go, wow, that's really destructible. This is something that's very common in a lot of games. You get this sort of minor level of destruction. Battlefield is about bigger levels of destruction. It's about things which you wouldn't necessarily expect to be able to destroy, and about the level of sort of detail and the kind of the gradient of destruction, I suppose. So again, shooting at this chair, I've managed to blow a piece off of it and a couple of other things around the table, but it doesn't seem to want to break down any more than that. And again, I thought, okay, I'll try a charge here just to kind of see what level of destruction it is. It's a wooden table, wooden chair. You would expect that it would be completely destroyed.
Charge detonated.
And okay, so from a C4 charge, chairs completely intact. One chair left with half, the table still intact. Those two sort of, easy chairs that were there, those soft chairs, completely intact, not taking a scratch. Okay, here we are inside. We're shooting through some of these wooden panels, and again, they do break. But again, notice the acuteness with which they break. They're very kind of specific and standardized. So they break in a very similar fashion for each panel that you fire at. You don't really break off chips. It's like a couple of shots and you break out a panel that's been pre-designated panel size, I suppose. Okay, again here around now. Again, it's very aesthetic. It doesn't really help you, those kind of things. You can shoot around these edges of the walls here, and I was just trying to see whether you'd get some sort of metal sparking, but you get a lot of sparking almost no matter what you fire at. Okay, blowing through the chair again right here, and again it's kind of it's a bit kind of 50-50 on this stuff. It'll break down to a point and then just no more. Okay, back to the panels, and again notice that kind of that pre-designated size in which they break. One of the cool things with Hardline though is the doors. People come up to the doors and you can sort of blow them as people are standing behind those doors, so that's quite a nice feature actually. So again, we're just looking around here looking for other items to blow up, and I was interested to see whether you could take down the trees, because trees sometimes are kind of non-destructible in games, but no, that tree gets blown into a million pieces, and it's actually quite a nice effect on that one. That's pretty good. I also wanted to see whether you could shoot through trees with a heavy machine gun in Bad Company 2. You could actually shoot through the trees, but no, not in Hardline. Okay, so we move on to Battlefield 4. Now here we are on Siege of Shanghai, and I picked this because it's very similar to kind of Downtown and even a little bit with Bank Job. It has the same kind of surroundings, the same kind of materials as you would find in that. So let's see how one C4 charge does. It completely destroys that building, almost, well, it's about 50% destroyed of that section. So a significant level of destruction there. And we're only one game away. It's using the same engine, remember. So this is still using the same Frostbite engine as Battlefield Hardline. Okay, so we're going to go downstairs and we're going to see what else we can find to destroy here. So moving on, we see the little trash bin right here. A couple of pistol shots blows apart quite nicely. Little subsidiary rocks after the destruction, stay intact, don't move. Coming up again to the pillars. And again, look, even though we pull this casing off, they're not particularly destructible. Probably about the same level as in Hardline. Shooting through this object. Now remember, this piece of art was very similar to that other piece of art in Hardline. But look at the difference in the detail of destruction between the two. They're basically the same object. But look at in Battlefield 4 how when I'm chewing through this stuff, it has almost kind of like two levels. It doesn't break away in very obvious specific pieces. It kind of chews through the whole thing. So it's quite different in that respect. Okay, a big concrete wall right here, and I did not expect this to blow up, but it actually does. You blow straight through that thing. So again, that's pretty good to see. Again, you can imagine if you're firing a rocket at someone behind there, or drop the C4, whatever, it's going to blow straight through that. I was quite surprised that actually did destroy. Okay, so then, right, we're going to move on into the building now. And I wanted to just kind of look around this area because there's a few walls and things around this building which you could imagine would destroy. So I wanted to kind of look at some of the details here. Now again, coming through here, putting a little charge on this wall here. and see whether we can catch out people in that corridor, for example. And you notice it destroys the wall to the right, but not this wall right here. This wall's only about 6 inches thick. It's probably sort of a light plasterboard rendered composite. It's not necessarily concrete. You would expect C4 to take that out. But remember, there's always, again, the similar wall to the outside and the inside there. These are designated destruction walls. You would expect those kind of thin walls to destroy, but again, there's often usually gameplay reasons for that. Plant pot right here, just a little ceramic plant pot. It can take about 100 LMG rounds. It's completely indestructible. You would expect that to be destructible, especially, as I was saying earlier, there's a lot of these small items, like the little chairs, plant pots, see these kind of things. You expect those to be destructible. So quite surprising that plant pot's not destructible. And again, you think, well, what would that matter? Well, it could save your life. You could lie down prone, you might only take 50% damage and be able to catch a guy out. It could be the difference between your life and death. So, it does make a difference what is and what isn't destructible. Especially when some guy's like laying down an LMG at you. So just trying out this bench right here, this sort of reception desk, and you could see that, yeah, it was taking a beating there. Again, notice the tree here, look, you can kind of chew at it, but it doesn't really go down. But so let's try the C4 again. LMG's not good enough. The C4 takes it straight out. But notice how it doesn't sort of fragment into a million pieces like it does in Hardline. It comes down in one piece. Okay, now we got the statue itself. Now again, remember how the destruction was in Hardline with those big one pieces coming off. Notice there when we were firing the head, it fragments off into many, many pieces. And again there, look, notice that beautiful destruction, how it kind of falls apart into lots and lots of pieces. And again here, look, lots of little pieces, and they all fall apart everywhere. Again, very different to that destruction we see in Battlefield Hardline, where one big piece flies off here and there. These concrete bollards, they look completely indestructible. I was, again, really surprised. I did not expect these to destroy. They completely destroy, wipe out straight to the ground. Again, I was really surprised by that. I did not expect these to be destructible. They look like the kind of object you would not expect to be destructible. Okay, so moving over towards the restaurant here. Now, this is a fairly stock building. You often find in Battlefield games that there's a lot of stock buildings kind of copied and pasted around the maps. And again, just wanted to see kind of how destructible these are. Again, we all kind of know at this point sort of relatively how destructible these buildings are, but just for the sake of demonstration. And again, you've got to remember the reason that you have destruction in Battlefield. The reason you have destruction in Battlefield is because it enables you to have different tactical options. It enables you to move and attack other people in different ways, not just running around the buildings using the standard entrances in and out of a building. That's what's very important about the game. That's why people like the game. So what you're going to be doing, if you imagine yourself in a firefight, there's maybe guys in this building, you know they're on the other side of you, and you don't want to maybe face them head on. You blow through and immediately start lighting them up, clear that room, clear that room. And that's why you have destruction in the game, so you can do actions like that right there. Breach and clear. That's the name of the breaching charge. Okay, a pile of cardboard boxes. Battlefield 4 LMG can't break through those cardboard boxes for love nor money. I was actually kind of surprised. I really expected those to kind of break apart, but no. So just looking a little bit at some of the micro destruction in here before we get onto some of the other things. And again, plastic chairs. Notice they kind of break in a relatively nice way into a few pieces there, so that was pretty decent. Again, right, so now we're looking around. What can I destroy? What can I break apart? And I notice a tree yet again. Another tree. Hey, see? Get straight through with the pistol. Now notice that you could just wreck that tree with the pistol compared to Hardline, and also earlier on this Battlefield 4 map we couldn't destroy that with the LMG. So it's important to note those kind of differences right there. Okay, now we're chewing back on some metal and concrete again right here. And really, really good level of sort of genuine destruction. See how it's breaking right away to those edges. Again, not like what we were seeing earlier in Hardline, where it was really only breaking some sections away and not really the proper thing. It wasn't really genuine destruction. However, I was kind of surprised that you had fairly limited penetration on these concrete bollards. You could only shoot through a certain... You could see I stopped after a while on these guys right here, that it wouldn't go through the middle. Okay, wooden house. Pretty much everyone knows that this wooden house is not destructible, but I kind of wonder why. Was it placed there as a specific objective reason that you could use it to hide behind? It just seems kind of stupid. Like, why don't they make it a really solid building, like a concrete or something like that? Okay, shooting at the wall here, no penetration. It is a kind of plaster, maybe concrete wall. but you can't shoot through it. C4 though will chew straight through it. And again, I'm just kind of trying to relate this to Hardline, thinking about those small buildings that you would see on like Dust Bowl, where you want to kind of get through and get into those buildings. Remember, we put those 3 C4 charges on the corner of that building, the building that was made of wood and plasterboard, and just nothing, no reaction whatsoever. However, you notice right here, huge concrete stone walls, 1 C4 charge blows the whole thing straight out. Okay, now we come up to just another, it's a, you know, ground floor, first floor building. 1 charge blows the hell out of it. And again, like I say, just keep it in your mind. Think back to other levels of destruction you have seen in Battlefield Hardline. Again, on Dust Bowl, those buildings right there, multiple C4 charges on that one, and absolutely 0 destruction, nothing whatsoever. And again, on the hotel. Not to mention the fact that, check this out, again, something that people know about this map. Just a few charges down the walls below the whole building, and down it comes with really, really fantastic Battlefield destruction. Again, important to remember that they're using the same engine. Hardline and Battlefield 4 using the same engine. Okay, now we come to Battlefield 3, a step back in time to Battlefield 3. Here we are on Seine Crossing, and it was actually kind of hard. I really found it quite tricky to find much that was destructible in Seine Crossing. You get the feeling like there's a lot of stuff going around in it, but when we actually got into the map, I just couldn't really find anything. There were those walls, obviously, and again, as you remember on Hardline when I was on the bridge, I was thinking of walls that you could hide behind, little walls for, you know, shooting out from behind. And so again, these walls right here. Pleased to say though that, you know, as with Hardline, you can destroy them. However, you can do that with a grenade, not needing C4. Again, I was just sort of peeking and imagining people firing down here. Now, I know you know that these are not destructible, but I just wanted to highlight that fact that, again, you know, somebody could be peeking here, and it's a kind of legitimate object you may want to shoot through. But notice, very kind of graphical bullet marks there. Nothing that's particularly destructive on those whatsoever. It doesn't even chip away. It's just graphical. Again, those objects right there, I was like, yeah, you could hide behind that. You might want to RPG it, grenade it, C4 it. Again, they're completely indestructible. Some sandbags right here. Again, I've just, out of curiosity, destroy them. Yep, no problem at all. But yeah, other than that, there was very little I could actually find to destroy, you know. Okay, now here we are on Karg Island. Now, I'm in the helicopter right here because I wanted to have a reasonable amount of destruction without having to constantly reload. And it's a quicker way of, and it's a good way of overviewing, you know, the buildings to see actually what's going down here. So I'm in the Viper, and we're just laying down the rockets onto the buildings right here. And look at that destruction, you know, look at that destruction. You just chew through the building, and then look at him go. Really beautiful level of destruction there, lots of detail, breaks up into many, many pieces. Again, contrast that back to Hardline, the buildings that we see on Dust Bowl. Just no destruction whatsoever. And you know, these buildings are made of concrete. The buildings in Hardline are made of, you know, wood and plasterboard. The kind of buildings you really, really would expect to see destroyed if you placed multiple C4 charges onto them. Again, look at the building go. And they really destroy in a very fantastic way, those buildings. Okay, now coming back over to here, there's a bit of a warehouse. Again, firing in, and you'll see that that combined with the fuel tank there blows up really nice. Okay, now here we are coming to the warehouse on foot. 1 C4 charge, a breach charge, blows the hell out of that wall. And again, anybody that's played Rush on this map knows that this is one of the last sections for Rush. And this is actually a legitimate, you know, you blow through, get in, start clearing enemies, and take that Rush objective. Okay, checking around the building right here, and I was just trying to find and think of other things I may want to destroy. And again, we can do these exterior walls. And again, this is the key point. It's not like very, very specific elements. They are all destructible. Again, if you're inside the building as well, and I actually felt like this wouldn't be destructible. I was like, it may not be. Nope, yeah, it's still destructible. So you can like jump through from one room to the next. You don't have to go through the doors, which is important if you're trying to avoid those choke points. And you know, you want to be able to sort of stay fluid, stay in the game, be able to sort of deal with people in ways that they don't expect. And again, that's it's a Battlefield element. That's what makes Battlefield the game that it is. I noticed this as I was coming back around. Look at this detailing here. the sort of stress fractures in the wall from the initial C4 charge going off. See how it breaks right up through the building. Really nice. Again, it gives that element of actual destruction, not just a panel break, you know, not just like a panel break coming off. It actually feels like it's sort of stressed the building, which is really good within the sort of in-fiction context of the game. I wanted to see if I could break just this small section off, but actually look, I didn't expect it to do this. It breaks the whole top section of that wall, and again, notice the really nice stress factoring and you know, reinforced metal within the concrete there as well. So really good. That was a good level of destruction on that front section. Okay, now here you come to boxes. Remember those indestructible boxes in Battlefield 4 and also Hardline? Indestructible boxes in both those games. Battlefield 3, no problem. Can't hide behind boxes in Battlefield 3, but Battlefield 4 and Hardline, no problem. Hide behind those cardboard boxes. Now here we are with the kind of, you know, anti-vehicle bollards, these concrete. Now again, remember how they looked in Battlefield Hardline. And I stayed on these for quite a minute because I was really impressed. Look at this. This is Battlefield 3. Look at the micro destruction here. Look at the detail in which the bullet chips off. I was really, really impressed in this. If you go back to the little Hardline clip and check it out and compare it to this, it's really surprising the level of detail on these. And I was quite, that's why I'm staying on this for quite some time, because I was just like, wow, it's really, really nice. Look at this. Look how it chips it and wears it away. Now, it's not completely destructible, that's true, but I just really love the way it sort of wears through, chips through. It feels really much more realistic about how it's kind of eating away at the concrete. Rather than, as I say, if you look at even at Battlefield 4 a little bit, I think, like, it's more chunky specific. Okay, again, coming up to just a flat building right here, the kind of building you may want to clear someone or jump into, again, like you may in Hardline as well. Clear it straight through, not a problem whatsoever. So again, really, really interesting to see that comparative to those other games. Now here on Zebra Tower. Now Zebra Tower was designed for destruction, okay, and I have picked it specifically just to demonstrate the level of destruction that we did have in Battlefield 3, okay. It's maybe not fair to compare it to Hardline because this was designed for destruction. However, in the sort of Hollywood Hills map in Battlefield Hardline, they seem to be going for a similar level of destruction as we had in Zebra Tower. However, with that said, check this out. C4 on that wall doesn't destroy. You know, Zebra Tower is actually, when I really got into looking around, it's not as destructive as you might think. There is a lot of destruction in it for sure, but I was kind of surprised that actually it wasn't so kind of like sandbox as I had remembered. And that's what's so interesting to go back and look here. Again, another wall. You would imagine C4 take that out. Nope, stays intact. It's kind of surprising, like I say, when you go back to these things that you remember differently. And that's why I'm doing this video, to try and help people remember. Again, look at the thickness of that wall there. You would imagine C4 charge take it out. Nope, stays totally intact. A little bit of damage around the door. Again, checking out the wall here. Not a great amount of damage from that bullet penetration on the wall. Now here we get into the section everybody knows. The kind of shootout corridor with a lot of micro destruction. Shooting through these panels. These wooden struts here. And it all fragments and tears up. Now this is a good part. This is real bullet penetration. Look how far this goes through. And I wanted to sort of highlight the fact that it goes through one wall and another wall, and it goes to the chair, and then it goes across the way, and it starts shooting into the wall in the background. And it's like, look how far that goes through. It's this great line. See this here? See how it's cut? Look at that. It's chipped through the wall. The other side of these two rooms has gone through one room, two room, the wall, and then the further wall across the way. So it's really gone through a lot. Okay, look at these. Look at this object destruction. Now, remember Hardline's object destruction. Remember those chairs outside that were just destroying one or two shots? And notice how these ones don't. The sofa chairs, they kind of don't destroy completely. Very similar to the sofas in Hardline. The smaller plant pot objects, you totally expect those to destroy in that way. Again, the table there. Look how the table fragments into multiple pieces. So it's kind of like breaks into 4 parts. It's not like just 2 rounds and it destroys. So again, it's kind of good to see that differentiation, but also it is actually fairly similar to Hardline. You know, they haven't changed that much. Okay, destroying right here, and again blasting through the door. Nice metal reinforcing. Again, the reception counter here. You'd imagine if you were someone hiding behind there, it would take him out. Actually no, it stays fairly intact. It breaks off paneling all around it, but that metal sort of reinforcement inside, it stays intact. So not complete destruction there. I was actually really surprised actually of sort of how little destruction in some ways there was in Zebra. Okay, so just moving around, I was trying to find other objects to see out Jenny Fills, and again, sofas blowing up. These really, really nice lights on the outside of the restaurant, all destructible again, you would expect it to be. Again, this wall right here goes into this corridor, and you often have people camping through there. I was like, can we blow the hell out of that? Nope, again, totally indestructible, but look at the thickness. You would totally imagine that wall would be destructible. Okay, again, going on the side of the little sort of cooking bit here, the sort of bar and kitchen. Doesn't really do anything, it destroys the edges of the walls. Okay, again, here we are on one of the balconies, and look at this concrete chewing through right here. Some metal reinforcing within. But it's really nice that sort of, look at the sort of organicness of how it destroys. Look at this, look, look, look. See, chip away, chip away, chip away. That's how it should be. And notice the softness in which it's destroyed. So it doesn't have that acute angle. But then, look at this, look at this. Remember that wall in Hardline where I said it was like a graphical thing and not a physical thing? Exactly the same here, look. See how that's graphical and not physical? Exactly the same as in Hardline. So again, it's worth noting that even on maps like Zebra, there's different levels of destruction. It's not like totally sandbox. Again, chewing through those chairs, look, and the wall in the same way. But it's just very important to sort of keep it comparatively in perspective and notice the small elements, the details within. I find it really interesting. Okay, C4 again on this thin wall, blows straight through, actually damages on both sides but fails to destroy through the wall. So again, kind of surprising there. Okay, here we are on the ground floor. And I was shooting through these wooden sort of panels. It's really nice how the wooden pieces kind of come down and then the sort of physics lets them drop against the floor. I just like how these panels, see how they fall to the floor? It's really nice to see that. Okay, then of course into the restaurant itself, and the restaurant in here, you can have some really furious firefights. Look at this, ripping through this wood. But again, see how it kind of falls apart nicely. It has a nice kind of pace of destruction. It's not like you fire 1 or 2 rounds and then it's just instantly destroyed. And notice how it remains as well. It doesn't sort of randomly disappear. The shockwave from that blasting out, hitting other objects around the place. So it's all about that kind of pace of destruction, the sort of detail of destruction all around. And when you're in a big firefight, lots of people shooting all around, these fragments and pieces are dropping all around, and that's what really makes it that kind of immersive atmosphere, the kind of thing you'd expect to see. Even that lamp right there, notice how it knocks out the middle section, not the other two. So this was really interesting to look at on Zebra, but I think it gives you a good overall impression of the level of destruction for Battlefield 3. It's the game that needs no introduction, Bad Company 2. And people love the hell out of Bad Company 2, but I often feel like people remember it wrong. I think people remember that Bad Company 2 had a way more destruction than it actually did, and I think people have a lot of rose-tinted glasses with this game. I've seen other YouTube producers, I've seen friends, I've seen a lot of different people talking about this game, and I think a lot of people remember it wrong. I think they really do, and that's another reason why I wanted to highlight this. Okay, so you can see right here that I'm chewing through this building, but it doesn't really have any kind of like very micro destruction in terms of like breaking it down. It's very sort of panel based, you know, it's like you break away X section and then another section and another section. But one thing that is good is you can fully level this building. You know, if you wanted to, you can take it right down to the ground. So that is a nice thing to see, and I think many people remember on Rush that this building being cleared right to the ground really sucked for defenders. Something I wanted to highlight here, watch this door. Notice how the door kind of just instantly disintegrates into a million pieces. It reminded me so much of the doors that we saw there in Hardline on Dust Bowl. So again, it's really curious, isn't it, how we can be so far back in time in Bad Company 2, and yet you see those same mechanics, even though it's on a totally different, you know, much more advanced engine. So again, it's kind of surprising. Wooden panel right here, look at this, totally indestructible, just can't blast through it. Again, I wanted to see some of the sort of micro destruction, even though I knew there wasn't any. But notice, again, just sort of firing at objects and look along here, on the edge of this concrete. Again, look, graphical. You know, it doesn't really destroy a chip. It's just a visual thing on the actual texture. Interesting though, these concrete blocks you can actually fire against with sort of pretty much any weapon. Again, see here, look how it chips away. But that's as far as it goes. You can't destroy it anymore. It's quite simplistic and very sort of polygonal destruction. Shooting at these sort of concrete tank traps, these bollards. Pistol does nothing. Carl Gustav will blow it apart, but again, notice very simplistic, very acute destruction. It just sort of breaks apart and a few little pieces come out. Firing the watchtower again it blows, look, a very sort of pre-designated panel size section out of the watchtower. Firing up against the floor, and of course everybody knows that you can't destroy these things, so you can't destroy that. You could destroy the sort of little wooden panels up and around the top. Again, remember I told you to watch that metal shack in Dust Bowl, where I threw the grenade at? Notice here, also not destructible. So again, both those things comparatively similar. Again, the fantastic doors, yeah, destroyed instantly. Okay, now we come to a favourite map of mine, Attica Harbour. Attica Harbour, probably one of my favourite maps in Battlefield Bad Company 2. Now again here I wanted to show some infantry and vehicle play here on these buildings, and so we've got the Carl Gustav again, and just sort of shooting into the buildings right here. And again, notice, you know, fire and through. That's what it's about. It's about creating new routes for yourself. It's about finding different ways to your enemy. It's about eliminating enemies who are hiding in buildings who you want them to get the crap out of there. You can't do that in Hardline. The buildings are not destructible in Hardline in the same way. You just can't break in. You can't, if there's some guy hiding in a house, you can't take him out. Okay, micro destruction again. Shoot the fence, no problem at all. The wall right here, let's see what we got. Nothing, not at all. In fact, barely even any bullet marks. So, yeah, not very impressive on that. Okay, driving in with a tank. Let's see what we can do here. Shooting at the little watchtower right here, the little hut. Completely destroyed from one shell. Okay, moving up here. Buildings on the left. Little fuel tank, which also subsidiary destroys sort of secondary destruction onto that building here. Now, again, a lot of people remember in Rush in Bad Company 2, a lot of people disliked it, but I actually liked it as a mechanic. I thought it worked, that you can actually destroy buildings, which then in turn destroy MCOMs. I actually really like that. Got to destroy those tank traps because they actually work. You have to destroy them or you can't get in here. And then we come to finish the building. And again, so just notice that kind of 360 all around destruction of the building. You know, whatever way you come at it, you can hit it. And again, look here. The building comes fully down. Now remember, this is Bad Company 2. You know, this game was a long time ago, and yet Battlefield Hardline, which is 2015, doesn't even have the most simplistic levels of destruction on a lot, well, like a very significant amount of its buildings. So comparatively, it's just a significant amount of level of destruction in Bad Company 2, to the point that you can take down many buildings. And it's honestly very, very disappointing, but you know, it just highlights and raises questions for a lot of people, I suppose. Building comes down fully, and again, look at how it falls down there. Yeah, yes, it's scripted. Yes, you can see that the way in which it falls is kind of pre-designated. It's not like truly sort of physics and organic, where it just kind of falls apart and goes in whichever way it sees fit, depending on the kind of, you know, the impact, where the force is coming from, or whatever. All these things. But it doesn't matter, you know, it's about changing the environment that you're playing in. It's about having that kind of immersive effect of, yeah, you know, I had an effect on that building. Not, I'm firing at this wall with a, you know, tank shell and it's totally indestructible. Now, you know, we don't have tanks in Battlefield Hardline, but it's not the point. You know, we have other things, the breach charges. You do have some rocket launchers, you do have RPGs. So again, you fire that at a wall and 0 happens to that wall. It's kind of really annoying. Okay, here the MCOMs are hidden within the inside of this little block here. You've got to use a fairly significant explosive to actually get inside and arm that MCOM charge. So we retreat back to the tank. Now again, something else I wanted to note here, check these trees out. Then we just cut straight through the trees. And again, this is something else that's pretty good in Bad Company, because a lot of times people try and hide in this foliage, and you can just chew through, cut them down. Okay, note these buildings. Now this was interesting. Not everything is destructible. Again, it's not like a complete sandbox. These are buildings that are kind of outside the actual usable area. And notice how they're just, even that sort of fuel tank right there, which is pretty close actually to the usable area, just totally indestructible. I tried for ages destroying those, and you know, it's pretty clear straight away that they're just totally indestructible. So again, they had a real balance in terms of like what you could actually destroy. Okay, some sort of on the ground destruction right here. Again, shooting through a window, which is very obviously going to be destructible. And again, so we're kind of comparing back again to Hardline here, sort of see the comparative levels of destruction. Little fuel tank blows through into the building, and again, it clears a space in that wall. But look at the internal walls here, just these little thin wooden panels, nothing happening, nothing doing. You can't break through them, you can't shoot through them. If there's people hiding on the other side, they'd be totally safe. Okay, so we've seen 4 games there, we've seen 4 different levels of destruction between those titles. But it's really interesting to see how things compare and stack up against Battlefield Hardline, which is, you know, the newest game in the series, running on the newest Frostbite engine. And it's also very interesting to see the comparative level of destruction between, you know, Battlefield 4 and Battlefield Hardline, which honestly are not very far apart whatsoever, and yet the level of destruction between the two is significantly different. Now, a lot of people are going to say, well, you know, you need to have a certain amount of destruction control in order to maintain a certain level of gameplay. This is entirely true. You know, you can't just have it so that everything is wiped out to the floor, because it would be stupid. You know, that actually happened on some maps in Bad Company 2, where you could just take out all the trees, all the buildings, and there was nothing really left. It kind of sucked because you just had no cover whatsoever. But in Battlefield Hardline, as we can see, you know, and how I demonstrated for you guys, there's many buildings around which people will take cover in, especially in maps like, you know, like playing Conquest on it, or even this game mode, Hotwire. You know, people are moving around the map. There's times where you need to sort of move from point to point. You need to clear maybe a sniper out or something. You need to get in those buildings, and you just cannot. There's no way of destroying. Particularly, again, specifically that hotel, the hotel in the middle of the map, or the motel even. There's often many people holed up in that building, shooting out at cars passing by, whatever, you know, they're having engagements. You want to clear those guys out of there. But, you know, you could imagine you stealthily walk up from outside and they don't know you're there. You throw the breach charges on the wall, blow it, bam, get a 4 quad kill inside or something. Can't do it. Can't do it. Won't kill them. You know, because they're safe in their, you know, 3-inch plasterboard wall or whatever. It doesn't make any sense, and it doesn't make any sense within the context of Battlefield, a game which has had a long history of significant levels of destruction. And it's not just about the chaos. I think that's the really important thing to highlight here. It's not just about the chaos of like, oh my god, look at the explosions happening everywhere. It's not about that. It's about creating new routes for yourself to access enemies. It's about taking out threats in different, more creative ways, and it's also about the immersion. It creates immersion in the game. It's ridiculous that you could put like a C4 or breach charge, whatever you want to call it, okay, onto a thin wall and blow it, and just nothing happens. It just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Not to mention the fact that they actually have the ability to do this with the engine. So in my opinion, you know, there's not really an excuse for it. It's really disappointing to see that. And, you know, there is some level of micro destruction. We saw this on Downtown, okay, shooting through those plasterboard walls, but it's thin, you know, it's thin. It's like, what, 15% of the map maybe. It's a very small section of the map. How many times are you actually going to be in that situation? How many times are you going to be in that situation and it's actually useful? You know, it's a slim amount of times. So for that reason, it's kind of frustrating, kind of disappointing. But, you know, judge it for yourself, guys. What do you think about the different levels of destruction in the game? And, you know, I should highlight one more time that this is only the beta right now. We haven't seen or accessed a lot of the other maps, so we'll have to see the different levels of destruction. However, if you want my honest opinion, I think what we're seeing is just this kind of aesthetic level of destruction in Hardline. It's like plant pots, boxes, different things like this. It's aesthetic level of destruction, which often has very little actual physical impact to the game itself, whereas with previous Battlefield titles, the level of destruction directly contributed to actually how the game played out, how you could achieve different objectives, and overall how successful you could be with the game. So that's my thoughts, guys, and I look forward to yours below. It actually took me quite a bit of work to put this video together, so I hope you enjoy, and I'll see you next time for some more Battlefield, whether it be 4, 3, Bad Company, Vietnam, or Hardline. See you then, guys. Thanks for watching.